touching on their plate. Some won't eat certain food groups, some don't like foods of certain colour. Are they attention seekers? Well, I wanted to ask you before the break, Faye, about adult fussy eaters. I know a few, and I'll be honest, they drive me round the twist with their demands. And I keep thinking, you're adults. What do you mean you don't want your food touching? Eat it. It's food. It all comes out the same way.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for adults because obviously by then you have the cognitive capacity, you understand about food and what you should be eating and a variety. But it could be that familiarisation that we talked about didn't happen in childhood, so you've had such a restricted diet that you've never become familiar and it's actually become more and more embedded and more of a problem.
Is that attention-seeking, or are we into sort of mental health issues here?
Well, I was going to say perhaps can be thought of as being slightly pathological in that some people with those sorts of tendencies that you're talking about, it could be linked, for instance, with obsessive-compulsive disorder or anxieties, and actually that's the anxieties manifesting itself through food, through control. So rather than attention-seeking, it might be that actually has a function for the person to maintain their anxiety levels, or it could literally still be about the aversion to food.
So shouting at them doesn't really help?
Probably not.
What about the people at home, Storm? What do they want to know or share?
Loads of calls. We've got Ted on line 1.
Morning, Ted.
Good morning.
What would you like to tell us?
My daughter is dyspraxic. A common symptom of dyspraxia is that she's anosmic. She has no sense of smell. So for her, eating food is about the texture of the food in the mouth. All food to her tastes effectively like tapioca.
Gosh. It's a good job I like tapioca. I know a lot of people don't, but...
I hate it. It's like eating sugary slime.
Now, is there anything you want to find out from Faye, or any other...
Well, my daughter's coming up to 18 now. She's a well-adjusted, well-balanced young lady, and now she's, going into adulthood and going off to university. She's actively trying to try different foods now to extend her sort of repertoire of foods she finds acceptable. But interestingly, she thinks Ben and Jerry's ice cream ought to be on the NHS.
I don't know what it would do for our obesity problem, Ted, I have to say. Although...
It's designed by a dyspraxic. It's designed by somebody who's anosmic, and it's designed for texture, not just taste.
I didn't know that. Well, thank you very much. That's my fascinating fact of the day, Ted. I will carry with me. Thank you for the call.
We've got Karen on line 4.
Morning, Karen.
Hello, good morning.
What would you like to
My
say?
thoughts are that they're just attention seekers.
Right.
My child was always fussing for what they wanted to eat, and I used to say to them, it's my duty, my responsibility to keep providing with all the right nutrients. I had a food chart with all the different groups of eating,
Right.
and made sure you actually eat 3 of those every single day. I said, if you weren't able to eat all of those, I'm not looking after you properly, and somebody else would have to care for you.
And nice quiet days.
Reminded them that there are some people who would love to eat a meal a day.
And did it work, Karen?
It worked. My child.
So how old was she when? Well,
he was around 3 to 5 when I saw the problem. Now he's 10, and he's absolutely fantastic eater. Eats everything, and everybody always comments on what a good eater he is.
Okay, Karen, I don't know what to say. I mean, I must admit, I'm minded to share Karen's view on this fact.
I very much think it's a balance. So I think you're right in that you shouldn't always pander to children's needs, and you've got to try and do what you can to promote them to try and eat a range of healthy foods. I think it's just whether that becomes a battleground, because for some children who are really extremely fussy, actually pressuring them to eat even more can just make the refusal even worse, and then you get in this negative spiral.
What if you're worried? I mean, if your child is refusing to take on key nutrients, some vegetables and stuff, I mean, this could get very serious.
Yes, and I think you've got to keep exposing them to the food, and you've got to keep encouraging them to try it, but maybe not always with force. Again, we talked earlier about positive reinforcement instead, so praising them for it. Are they going to, have a sticker chart for rewards? Are you going to get to go out and do something?
Do they have
really
this in the
enjoyable
developing world, where children may be desperate for a meal? Do they spend all day grafting for $1 a day to buy a meal and they say, I'm not eating, I don't like it?
Yeah, exactly, and that's a very, very good point, looking at Western versus developing worlds, and also looking at things like our obesity epidemic, because obviously in the UK we have huge amount of palatable foods that are available all the time. So children are going to want to eat the things that taste really, really good over the fruits and vegetables. So we also have the challenge that we're trying to get our children to eat really healthy in this very obesogenic environment where they've got all these triggers, all this unhealthy food around them all the time. And the hedonics, the fact it makes them feel good when they eat it.
So our Western diet actually is making this situation, aggravates the situation. That you might have not so much rather plain tasting healthier foods compared to the sugar and salt and fatty foods, but the kids like that, so they don't want to eat.
Yes, so we've got to acknowledge the fact that unhealthy foods, often for children, taste good.
And adults.
Let's
not lie about it.
Yeah. So perhaps, in our culture, it becomes less about eating when you're hungry sometimes and eating because it tastes good or because of your emotions, whereas in other cultures, perhaps it's not. It's eating for survival.
You can probably tell where I'm going to go with this thing, because the next thought in my mind, and I don't have kids, and when you hear this question, you'll probably be very thankful for that. If you just don't feed the child until they eat the food that's on the plate, will they eventually get hungry and eat the food that's on the plate?
This is a debate that seems to be quite current at the moment. Again, I would never advise that you allow your child to completely starve. That said, as long as you're giving them some of the things they like and some of the things that they don't like, then if they only eat half of their meal, then they're not going to starve. But hopefully then it would encourage them to perhaps try some of the other foods on their plate as well.
When I was in the jungle, I ate beetroot. I hate beetroot. I'm still not very keen on it, but I did eat it.
Is that the worst thing you had?
No. Do you know what? I don't like beetroot, yes.
Really funny.
Ostrich penis wasn't so bad. Karen, thank you for the call. Let's have another.
We've got Nick on line 2.
Morning, Nick.
Morning.
What would you like
Donald.
to tell us?
Yeah. My daughter's been a fussy eater. It's, baby now.
How old is she now?
She's 10 now, and she's got a lot better, but I do believe it's genetics, because her mum, exactly the same.
But that could mean, couldn't it, learned behaviour from mum rather than genetic traits?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that there could be a little bit of both. It could be that some of it might be slightly genetic predisposition, but definitely, it could be modelling the behaviour of the parent as well.
Do you think there is a genetic link? I mean...
well, with some of the things that we talked about, things like the sensory aversions, that could be, an innate difference and individual differences in children. Also personality, food neophobia, so being scared to try new foods, that's actually seen as quite a stable trait that differs amongst different people. So some children are inherently going to be more fussy regardless of what parents do, unfortunately.
Do you worry about it, Nick?
Not as much now, because she's getting better, but...
Does she worry about it?
For instance, she could eat a bucket of KFC, but yet a Sunday roast with chicken, she won't touch the chicken, but she'll have the veg, she might eat, the spuds, the gravy, not the chicken.
OK, now you see, this is where I'm not cut out for parenthood, because I just wouldn't have it. You've just eaten a bucket of chicken, now you're having roast chicken that's not deep fried, eat it.
And again, though, is that about association? So a child would learn to associate KFC perhaps as a treat, as something really delicious, and then how do they
But
view
it's the same
roast dinner?
thing.
It's not a world of difference to a kid. It really is.
Go on, why?
It's covered in fat and salt, and it tastes different. It's in a wrapper. It's in an environment that says treat. And all of these things. It's not about the substance at the middle of it. It's about the wrapping, and that's the sensory perceptions, that what it looks like, the environment you're eating it in, the table you're eating it off. I mean, so much else goes into it.
I've been a vegetarian since a very young age, and I didn't want to eat anything that looked like an animal. So if it was covered in something, it wouldn't look like a chicken. I might have eaten it. I know, man.
I'm sorry. I'm mindful of the fact that there could be genuine issues, but it's something that does drive me nuts.
And it drives parents absolutely crazy.
We are out of time, though, so I want to thank Nick, all the other callers we can get to. Faye Powell, a huge thank you for giving up your time. You've been superb, I have to say.
No problem, thank you.
And also a huge thank you to these two.